All right. Good afternoon. And I'm sorry for my tardiness. We had two storms hit back to back. So we had power outages, trees collapse, all the good stuff that makes life miserable, along with being moved to almost dial-up speeds. So today is going to be a Q&A and a little bit of news for Section 8 for Sunday afternoon. For those of you that like to sit in the background, now would be a good time to ask questions related to Section 8 programs, federal programs, housing, and so on. As a quick introduction, my name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. As you can see behind me, we're in the middle of trying to move, but with 26 years in the field, solving around 22,000 cases, and probably on average dealing with 1,000 plus clients a year, several hundred a month, and probably, I don't know, 3,000, maybe 4,000 landlords over my course and career. So there's a lot to talk about. Now, one thing you can feel free to do is if you're in disbelief, challenge me on any federal code, title, procedure, and I can tell you verbatim without even looking at a teleprompter. You only acquire that kind of experience knowing what you're doing. All right, so I'm going to start with a little bit of news because I know you guys are shy, but as soon as I get you warmed up or either angry, you'll start asking questions, I'm sure. So as you may know, we're still in this little government shutdown, and that has put the brakes on a lot of things for people without HUD being operable with few employees it has left. It makes it rather difficult for housing authorities to get approval on issuing vouchers and other issues. One thing I want to point out, anybody with even a little bit of common sense and an IQ greater than 3 or 4 could do a quick Google search in Google News, type in the word HUD or Section 8 housing, and you'll see that we're seeing a system of housing authorities around the country right now that have run out of money. They're stopping payments. Now, what I find so interesting is rather than willfully just admitting that they only had about a month worth of budget left, a lot of them are saying we're pausing things. I employ the housing authorities around the nation at this point. Quit sugarcoating shit, okay? If you're out of money, just say that, okay? You're not pausing anything. You're out of fucking money. Be honest with yourself. Don't act like you're delusional and add to the problem, okay? If your housing authority is currently engaged in a system of theft of funds, and you're close to being indicted, and this was a proving ground for you, having to run your Ponzi scheme in the middle of a government shutdown, well, then your days certainly are numbered. It'll probably only be about a month before you get indicted. So I think a lot of bad housing authorities that didn't even have a reserve because they probably stole the money will likely see what they would call, or many of us have coined, as Section 9. Forget about Section 8, Section 9. Three hots and a cot in a federal prison, and you get your own prison lease. No keys, baby, but you do get 80% time. So it's a wonderful lease to have. Medical care, you get two pair of shower slides or slippers, and they even deliver the newspaper to you. That's if you make it day to day. So I was looking through the news today, and it's not a lot of housing authorities actually have done a fairly good job by keeping them reserved, because I was only able to count about 60 examples, around 30,000 vouchers that are starting to fail out of, I don't know, about 5 million. So that's not too bad. That means we only had a few thousand frauds, and even more housing authorities likely to, be indicted. I'd estimate at this point around 100 of them out of the 4,200. So we only had 100 frauds running across the country. And then probably if we counted all the employees, it would mean we could fill probably a supermax to the brim with, housing authorities that stole money. So that's good news, right? We can send them all off. It's good to have a government shutdown because those that are operating honestly get an opportunity to continue issuing Section 8. But the ones that are not able to do that and keep buying Gucci slippers and other things and stealing and being willful in their ways, well, we will fill, the big max prisons all the way up for you. It's a great retirement plan. I'm telling you, you go to the dining hall, they're always serving a 3-course meal, baby. Nothing like sloshing through the snow at 3 a.m. to get a biscuit. That's what your new life's going to be. Should have thought about that when you screwed people out of vouchers. All right, moving on down here to comments. I want to roll them back a little bit. I know you guys, I said it at 3. Internet was bad. I said it at 5. So I pretty much had a protest behind that one. And here I am at 5:30. Let's take a look here. Press the like button. I appreciate that. You're helping advocate for the channel. Christine Gannon gives me a pink wave and a smiley. Food stamps by ethnicity. Okay, that bullshit's gone. We're not going to do that game here, okay? If you're going to bring racial politics into this channel, you're gone. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead. You're gone. I'm not going to deal with that, okay? If you want to pull that number, you could move out to my old hometown, somewhere out there between Baton Rouge and Louisiana, and you can go burn crosses all day long in your backyard. You're not going to do that shit in my channel, okay? I don't tolerate that. There's nothing that there's no other way to perceive that comment of giving a breakdown by ethnicity. What you should do is go get a psychiatric evaluation, partner. All right, Bunny. Thanks for the clap hands. Sonny says, ready for this one. Yep. Freak out tent. Glad to have back. Always glad to have you back. I love a good freak out tent. Karen knows. Good evening. And truly, I don't ever really do these in the evening. Muka, hello and good afternoon. Good evening, Jay. Mr. Good evening, Jay in chat. The cats are sleeping right now, so I hope you all did not arrive to see my wonderful cats jump through the chandelier and in the lamps and through my hair. They were not present right now, okay? This is their sleep hour. That way they can wake me up every hour on the hour starting about 2 a.m. Vegas John, can Section 8 landlords evict tenants if the housing authority stop paying their share of the rent? You're asking a loaded question and filled with a channel of people that have vouchers. Do you honestly want me to answer that question? You can do what law permits you to do. What you're asking there is not only probably immoral or unethical, but I don't think that's going to go. Okay. If the tenant's paying their portion, then you have no legal ground to evict them. Okay. You need to, and look, before everybody freaks out, government shutdowns can only happen so long. So before we walk around with our shotgun in West Virginia, knocking on your tenant's doors, wondering why they don't have their split of the moonshine, I would suggest waiting another week or two. Okay. This isn't going to go on much longer. Okay. Otherwise, there'll be a meltdown at the White House. Okay. So please. And I meant that comically. I know I've included a lot of West Virginia in the video, but it's easier to target my West Virginia folks than it is my people in my hometown, because we all know how Cajuns can be and Creoles and everybody else in Louisiana. And by the way, I don't live there anymore, but I know the simplicity of living in Louisiana. We can be a very culturally sound people. We can also be very on the fritz. You know, not like seeing some young kids going to school in rubber boots. You know how that goes. So when I think of my hometown, I think of West Virginia. Or maybe I'm just prejudicial in my thought of West Virginia. Maybe everybody out there is driving a Benz and it's all just not real. All right, moving on from there. Thank you for your expertise, Jay. Muga, what happens to the current voucher holders? Well, the current voucher holders, if you're lucky enough to live in a city where the housing authority is operating above board, they'll be able to probably continue to pay till the end of the month, possibly up to the middle of November. The one thing that we're certain about nationwide is if the government shutdown is allowed to run greater than November 15th, then virtually all funding will cease, okay? There will not be any further funding. Already we're seeing failure. The failure rate right now, so if we look at a scale of 1 to 100%, if I can get around this giant microphone I need. Here we go, over here. So I would say right now we're at about the 15% mark. So we're seeing roughly, and I'm giving a broad number. I didn't do a census on this. I'm basing it on the level and accuracy of the news. The news will lie about a lot of things, but when it comes to death tolls, hurricanes, fires, snowstorms, and blizzards, they never lie about that. They will inflate it. But about 15% is what I'm seeing as a failure rate right now. I expect that number to dramatically climb as we reach the first week of November. It's important to understand that any time, if enough pressure is given on either party, Republican or Democrat, they could come to the table and decide to end this little tantrum we're having. Starting tomorrow, Monday, I believe on Tuesday this will be the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Now, the news is preaching very heavily that, that neither party is doing any talking or whatever. I'd be very careful in your interpretation of that. Remember this. Anytime even something minor happens, the news always uses very inflated words to give you a perception. The reality of it is, I would check at congress.gov and the house.gov and see where your actual politicians are at with this, okay? To believe MSN, Yahoo, CNN, and Fox News all have a vested interest in pushing along the party lines, okay? So investigate it yourself, okay? Otherwise, you're going to be left with one feeling, and that's what all the news is reporting, is there's zero cooperation. I'm not sure that's true. I think both parties are pushing hard to end this. I just think that they have not come to an agreement that works for both parties. And I also know that any longer than 30 days, which we are now at, or very close to, major things are going to happen that are pretty damaging nationwide. There are not enough billionaires that are going to be willing to chip in to continue to pay the military and everybody else. Okay, let's be real with ourselves. All right, moving on down. Ocean Sound 100, I think the government is going to open by the middle of November. Let's keep in mind, if it does open in the middle of November, the damage is done, okay? We must also not consider just the government opening, but the fallout from it. Anytime you create a disaster, it has to be cleaned up. That means even with the reopening of the government, we have to go backwards before we can go forwards. So those of you clamoring for day one of the opening of the government doesn't mean your housing authority is going to race in their nightgown and slippers to the housing authority and start issuing vouchers. This could very well mean the end of the year for a lot of housing authorities that have cooked their entire budget and their reserve, which means they have little to nothing to operate on whether the government's open or not this year. This is the cost. This is the price of politics. As it stands now, we're days from insolvency on food stamps. There are some states and locations across the nation that have kept the reserve, but it ain't much. And so within the next few days, we are expecting a complete failure of the food stamp system nationwide for 46 million people. Okay, so that's the first domino to go in food insecurity. And unlike Section 8 housing, which has a smaller number of people, so food stamps at 46 million, and then you've got housing at roughly 5 million. So housing being the bigger issue and more expensive is usually the last domino to go. And we're seeing that domino go approximately 2 weeks after basically food stamps quit for those that don't have a reserve budget. And I don't believe there was much requirement for that to start with. So this is common sense, common logic, not being advantageous, not sitting here and trying to envelop some important story to fearmonger. This is a reality that can be witnessed yourself publicly through the information that is available. Okay. All right, moving on down from there. Bunny, they were predicting till January next year shutdown. Okay, so that's the wonderful thing about news and why it's such a nasty little thing. Of course they'd predict next year. They love, because you know what? That's going to get more clicks than anything. I could run around naked in here, spray paint my cat purple. Y'all will give more clicks to a news ad that says that the government shutdown could last a year. Okay, let's be honest. Bullshit always sells real well, especially the real flighty stuff. It won't be long before they start predicting that the government shutdown can last a decade and that we'll all have to grow tomatoes in our garden. I read a news article today talking about we have the worst inflation that we've ever seen in this nation, barring probably a time and period when we had the Great Recession. But you're comparing peaches to apples, right? Total different society then. Moving on down, I see you guys are starting to crank up the comments. So I'm starting to say things that are getting you thinking, getting you hot around the collar, or maybe you feel like you want to correct me. I'm okay with that today. I'm very mellow, especially having to pick up 10,000 sticks out of my yard. I don't have the fight that I normally do in my live videos. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Says Debbie Milton, Maria Pelser. Are they going to stop the FSS program? Family self-sufficiency is highly contingent on what the president will have HUD's director do. I don't see that FSS is going to survive. I'm going to give you that as a professional opinion from my 26 years of experience. I don't see that surviving. Okay. The administration views food stamps and housing as purely a welfare program, and if it were up to this administration, they would get rid of it all. The only thing that's standing in between food stamps evaporating completely and also Section 8 housing would be probably Congress and the House. Okay, that's the reality. Not everybody likes that kind of stuff. I have lots of people come on my channel when I talked about immigration, and they were super excited about that. Others did death threats. I get it. If you're gonna have a tantrum and have a crisis, why not do it to me, right? Like, I control that shit. Karen knows. Please don't paint your cats. I wouldn't dare. I care too much about my cats. If they don't move enough around in one day and they lay down too long, I get worried they're dying or something. When you get in your 50s and you don't have kids and you're alone and you're not married, the cats become like your children. So naturally, I'll stab or shoot anybody that fucks with my cats. And when they become sick, I take it seriously. They're good companions. They're going to make great companions as we move around the country. So yeah, I'm not going to spray paint my cat. I might dye the cat purple, but yeah. All right. Maggie Smith, 1979. I grow tomatoes. I have 4 gallons. Muscadine grapes. No one wants them. Rather than have the store bought. You know what? Both my father and my grandmother were epic gardeners. I learned everything I knew from them, especially my grandmother. Sadly, these days, I don't have much time to maintain stuff like that, but I'm hoping to revisit that again because I went to HEB. You guys don't have that up north, and they have fresh produce. Well, you can get fresh produce or you can grow fresh produce, right? But what got me was the $38 it cost me when I walked out the door. And I was thinking, well, I can do that for about 20 cents at home. I just gave away $30, Tomatoes are the easiest thing to grow. I grew one year, and the bush grew approximately 15 foot tall. It was around 8 foot around. I'll show you that picture one day. I had this unusual tomato plant that continued to grow to epic heights. Okay, I don't know what kind of it was. It got so big, it overgrew the roof. And I believe we had allowed it and kept watering that damn thing. It might have grown as much as 30 foot. It was an absolute anomaly of life. I took many photos of that. I'll see if I can hunt them down and put them in our community page. Anyways, we're not here to talk about tomatoes, people. You guys got me reminiscing about crazy shit. We're supposed to be talking about how we're disgusted with the shutdown, how there's fear mongering and fear and pain and misery right now. Let me get back to hell here. Too much cat and tomato talk. I don't want to get you guys all warm and fuzzy. We have to wake up tomorrow and remember we're still in a real world. The government's not like a tomato plant. Attain, have a question. What if you're working and you're on Section 8 and not any welfare program? I love how you made that distinction. Okay, look, if you're accepting Section 8, you're on a welfare program. Lord, I understand that's a mental block that we all seem to want to have is distinguished. Anytime you accept something for free, it's welfare. Okay, I'm going to look up the word for welfare today just to see. I don't even like that word because it has a stigma. It tends to be race-based. I think that we should find a better word to use, but anytime you accept free things, that's welfare, in my opinion. Okay. However, to answer your question and get back to it, if I can find it, what if you're working on Section 8 program and I don't know? Well, you asked kind of a question, but you never asked what you were looking to learn. to attain 2723. If you could revise that question so I can know how to answer it, because I feel like you're asking a question maybe you want a conversation I was having 10 minutes ago. Muka, cats make great companions. Thank you. Maggie Smith, we have a great neighborhood cat. Found out recently, I knew that would happen. When I started about these cats in this channel, you guys leave. We quit talking about housing and Section 8, and we start going off on pets. Won't be long for I'm running the poodle channel. But thank you. Thank you for commenting on that. Hopra says, time to plant a garden. That's pretty bad. I'm running the Section 8 channel here, and I have been doing for 15 years. You guys rather talk about pets and gardening. What am I going to do with y'all? I mean, we're trying serious business here. Some of y'all going to be evicted and lose your housing. You're not going to have one poo stamp. You remember the old poo stamp books that give you them ugly pastel colors back in the 80s? You pop a ticket, and then you hold everybody all up at the grocery store. They pissed off, and then they give you that fucking eyeball because, oh, look at that bitch. She's using a poo stamp. We know her lazy ass ain't been. I just saw that bitch at Popeyes. So, yeah, look, the point of the video here is to help you guys with housing. But if you want to shoot the breeze about gardening, I'm willing. I'm very willing. You got me going, guys. You got me going good on a Sunday afternoon. You know, I got nothing better to do is stare out my window with my damn cats as well, right? All right. So I remember those paper foods, don't we all? And let me tell you, I had a teacher when I was in school. This bitch was evil. You know, some of us had to go to school. We had to go get that pre-lunch ticket. This bitch would make us raise our hand. Get all the low-class children, please raise your hand. Now, get in a line and march your sorry asses to the front to get your hot pink fucking ticket. That way, you can march through the entire school system and let everybody know what kind of trailer trash you are. I wish I could find her. I would. Well, stop. See, I'm having bad thoughts. But see, that's how we do it. We do things in Louisiana. It's like a prison system and school system. You know, if you ain't got, then you're treated like a convict in there. They'll line you up, give you a free lunch ticket. All right. Anyways, we reminisce on the past again. Yo, Jay, is HUD done then? Well, the light bulbs are off, that's for sure. They're not doing anything, and nobody seems to care if they do. Everything's closed. Everything's closed. I got a few look, I was laughing today. I was reading the news just to see how many housing authorities would issue vouchers right now. There are a few of them. Now, what I find so amusing is, we're going to open the waiting list. Please stop the bullshit, man. You're not opening anything. What you're doing is you're trying to make yourself look good. And when they open that waiting list, they're going to issue the last $5 they got to 3 people, okay? Please stop the drama, man. Okay. And you can't even issue them until you get them approved by HUD. So really what you're doing is you're cycling through your responsibilities as a housing authority, but you know that you can't even meet the end goal. Yeah, we'll open the list, but we're not actually going to issue that voucher to 2028, you know, when we have more money. All that just to look good. I call those my window wipers there because they're just full of it. Yeah, going on. The writing's on the wall. Hey, it's been on the wall for quite a while. Robots are taking jobs where there will be no self-sufficiency. Well, you know what? I'm fine with that. As long as I can have my own private robot. And I'm going to work that fucker until every nut and bolt falls out of it. We're going to explore many types of it. First thing I'm going to teach you to do is work 24 hours going out and panning for gold. Don't come back. You will not get a recharge if you don't come back and give me an ounce of gold. Okay? You sit out that porch and you think about what you've done for yourself. You get out there, and I don't care about the weather. No free recharge unless you got an ounce of gold. See, that's the problem with robots. We get those people are having things robbing banks because you can't arrest a robot, can you? So we'll have armed robbery, all kinds of stuff. Won't even that, but you have robots running down the street selling drugs too. God knows we'll probably abuse every robot they make. So I'm not in too big a hurry to get one. Think about all the horrible things that can happen with that, right? I'm glad you made it through the storms. I'm glad I made it through it too, because, you know, there's nothing worse than wet cats jumping on your bed at 2 in the morning. You ever had a soaking wet cat jump in your bed? And I don't mean just meow and from a foot away. I mean, get in there and then lay on your ass. And then you're waiting for 3 more. So yeah, that's part of my day today. Then I'm trying to pick up sticks. And the catch thing I'm playing. So we spend our days slopping through mud. And I'm trying to keep the cats off my pants all day. So yeah, it's been a beautiful day. Beautiful day. Anyways, moving on down, Sherry. I'll probably have some juice. They have very tough skins. Might make some jelly, but not eating sugar these days. Well, thank you for sharing that. I got to tell you, that was super off talking. It sounds like you're discussing canning gel in the channel. Jelly wouldn't surprise me. We got a lot of Sunday talkers today. I'm okay with that. If y'all want to talk about pickling and deviling eggs, making gumbo, frying chicken, gardening, we can do it today. Hope as you will own nothing and be happy. Okay, I'm going to disagree with that comment because I've been poor and I've had a lot and then I've been poor again. Money makes a difference. Now, whether or not you own shit or not, I don't know about that. But if you ain't got money, life's a little bit less. Look, it's tough. What about work that robot? You're right. I'm going to use the first robot to work his ass off so I can buy a second one. I'm going to do like these housing scalpers do. You make the first robot make you some money so he can buy you another one. And we're going to keep doing that. So I have a whole army of them. And then we'll get back to like we used to have in the old days, plantations. It won't be people on it, it'll be robots. You have a person, you'll have a bot that does. Oh boy, then the world will become truly eccentric. Robot slavery. And then, of course, we're going to have robot huggers. We have to think about that, right? Can't abuse the robot. And then eventually they'll have sex robots. We're going to enter into a whole new immoral era of things, of nastiness. So, yeah, robots are robots. Do you want us to talk about among ourselves? Well, you can if you wish. People do it all the time. It's kind of like going to a party and then you're being ignored. So yes, if you like to talk with the other guests, go ahead. Somebody gave me $2, but I can't read what it says. Thank you. That will pay for 1 treat or 2 treats for the cats. I appreciate that. That's sound wisdom. Unfortunately, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. That sounds like the entire history of the U.S. Have we ever not been in a calamity in this damn country? And when we do have a calm generation or a decade, what do? We go out there and we look for the first war we could stick our ass into. It's like as a nation, we cannot stand anything unless we're spending money, making war, or trying to screw with another country. We as Americans in our country, we cannot sit still. You see how China sits there? You see them popping bombs anywhere? No. They're counting their dollars. Same thing with Russia. Well, no, Russia's been busy in Ukraine. They need some free uranium. You know how that goes. So, no, America's got to be mixed up. If anybody is like a bad neighbor, it's America. We always got our nose in everybody's shit, man, except our own. So we're going to run the war, but forget about the elderly and disabled. We don't put them out on the sidewalk with the bag of trash. We as Americans, man, I tell you, the haves get it all, the have-nots, well, you're not allowed to sleep or camp in the city. In some states, it's a crime to be homeless. If you move to the forest, you're only given 14 days because the state forestry and the feds say that's a park and you can't camp longer than that. So where the hell do you go? Huh? You go sleep in a porta potty? Oh, I'll see $5. Now we're gone. They got a nice bag of cat food. $7. We're off to the races. The cats are going to enjoy both of y'all. Thank you, Mr. Mister, and thank you, Maggie Smith. So going down. Will housing be limited? I think in the future, housing will be very limited because we only want to build houses for the wealthy. Okay? You're seeing a good example of a virus in California. Housing and its inflation due to people buying those houses and using homes as an investment instrument is playing out pretty badly across that state. And what that really means for a lot of us is it becomes unaffordable. And the same thing many of you guys as Republicans thought was, pretty bad. We're seeing that play out in Florida. Florida's full of retirees, and it's got a serious housing crisis. It has a serious inflation issue in terms of having the money to be able to deal with housing for low-income individuals that are seniors. So it's pretty serious over there. Oh, here's a cat is crying. That's Mr. Bunny, my cat with no tail. He'll be here in a minute. Come here, Bunny. He is really going at it right now. So if y'all get lucky, I'll show you Mr. Money. Black Crow 7, money for what war? Any war. We're war. Let me tell you that we and you thought those people, the Vikings, were tough. Deal with an American. I always said if you had a war in America, and you stopped off in California or New York, the gangs have got more guns per inch than any invader. So if you're from another country and you want to invade America, don't do that, because you'll be shot to death before you even get past the waterline. Okay, your military won't survive half the gang members we have in America. Okay, don't even try it. You'll die in the water. It'll be a sad, sad affair. You'll watch your military completely be evaporated in Queens, New York. They won't get one block and they'll all be blasted to pieces. Okay? You go out in LA, same thing. You march your Chinese troops in there, they'll be dead within minutes. So there are some advantages of being American, right? All right, so Kayla, 555, thank you for the $10. Man, my cats are really going to eat this up. You guys have been really good about that. So thank you so much. But I will give the glory all to the cats. And so we appreciate the $10. And I'm sure Mr. Money will enjoy that as well. If y'all have ever had a cat with disabilities, you got to see Mr. Money. No tail. He has spina bifida, so he's got a screwed up spine. He's incontinent because he has deformities throughout his groin. But we managed to survive all that adversity, still here, and he still haunts the hell out of me for treats. So that $10 will be well placed, trust me. Trustworks 101, what about the elderly and disabled and veterans? Well, the elderly, disabled, and veterans all face the same thing all other Americans do in terms of housing and food stamps. There are no exceptions to depravity. Politics doesn't care. One thing I need to make clear is you have no defense against governments. When the government decides to cut the money on and to cut the money off, it doesn't care that you're senior, elderly, disabled, missing, that you lost your last eyeball in the toilet at the mall. It don't care. I try not to laugh when I said that, but really. So it's important to understand that right now, there isn't a lot of cheddar being spread by Uncle Sam. He sucked up all the cheddar, and we don't have enough government in place to redisperse that money. So the best way to view this is how much longer will this go on, and will it affect me for the next couple of months if the government shutdown comes to an end? Moving on from there, Bonita Camel, 7304. You're funny. I try to be. I mean, you really have to have a little bit of a loose screw if you're going to deal with matters related to Section 8 housing. Your clients are usually very special as well. So you've got to have a wicked sense of humor. Plus all my naughty cats, like I just saw at the corner of my eye, Bunny pissed on the floor. What am I going to do, stop the video? But that's just Mr. Bunny. He does what he wants. When he was younger, I used to hold him and he'd piss on my chest, but I love him, so I let him just clean up the mess, keep going. All right, moving on from that. Trustworks 101. I'm unenrolled voter. Both sides are shady. Well, you got to pick a shade. Okay. You get you some good eyeliner or some eyeshadow and pick a shade. Okay. Genus. American Dream. Hello, could you answer my question, please? I will certainly try. So I'm going to roll back the glass ball here. And I did answer that question. All right. Miss Bella 6930, New York cannot let Ma'am Danny be mayor. I wouldn't know about that. I don't practice much in the New York area. I deal with clients there, some landlords, but I don't know enough about local politics. Okay. So I appreciate you bringing that up. However, I don't have any wisdom to lend to that at this moment. And then going on from Maggie Smith says, I know in North Carolina from a VA doctor, I know there are lots of vets living in the woods. Well, that's not unsurprising. I mean, homeless live in a lot of places and sometimes highly unlikely places, depending on the state and terrain. Mr. Thank you for the $5. I think we're up to about $25 in donations for this video, which is good. It's a good way to show support for those of you that care for animals or take a personal interest in animals while, being on our channel. And the cats always appreciate it. I appreciate the break. I probably spend over $1,000 a year in cat foods and treats. And at one point I had 30 cats, many of which were disabled. One by one, they died or succumbed to other elements we couldn't fix. And I know that I spent a lot out of my personal savings to keep a lot of them alive. But I'm not here to earn any award. All right. So laughing out loud, Jay is too funny. Well, thank you. Trustworks, special needs funds. They do. But I think the most important thing you can do morally and ethically as a human is care for your old, protect your women, and take care of your pets. As you get older, having a pet can mean the difference between good mental health and bad mental health. Trust me. Having a pet is a privilege. And I think that's probably the most important part of it. All right, moving back. Kevin knows, hope we are rich and bipartisan. Look, guys, don't let your politics determine your wealth, okay? Otherwise, we have politicians sitting in prison too. I can count on all my hands and toes how many governors are sitting in prisons because they wanted to do politics and money together. Okay? Money only matters if you're trying to help people. And even then, you need to be discretionary about that. Moving on from there, Frisky Mini, did you ever have one missing a rear leg? I've never had a tri-cat with a missing leg. I've seen a lot of things, but never that. But I know my determination with my pets, I won't stop unless you can prove three basic things, when it comes to pets and death. One, they must have, you must be able to prove they have quality of life or no quality of life. Number two, you have to prove that there's no pain. And number three, you need to be able to prove that there's a chance they can heal or recover. I implement those three policies for any pet I own, and that includes disabled. Are they healthy, or can we get them healthy? Are they in pain, or can we take them out of pain? And with those two solutions, will we be able to heal or repair them? And so that's how I determine whether or not cats remain alive, or even with me, or even pets in general. Three qualities of life is what I call it. That's my own philosophy, but to me, if a pet meets those three characteristics at the vet's office, it helps you better determine a difficult situation and a highly emotional situation as well. Quality of life, pain, and whether or not they can be healed. If you do things outside of those three things, then you're doing it because you're self-centered. Okay? Lots of people like to watch their pets carry on with cancer. It cannot be healed. It failed the test. Okay? We should not be treating our pets as an extension of our happiness. And nor should I ever have to teach this lesson to grown people. But I'm an experienced pet owner, so I can always just maybe sound like I'm smarter than I really am. Trust me, I make lots of bad decisions. All right, Black Crow, I'm living in RV with a black cat and 2 chihuahuas. Well, you really do have a bag of screws loose in the room. I admire you for your wit to be able to do that. I know I would have already lost my shit trying to do that, especially barking chihuahuas. And I can see chihuahuas being highly aggressive in that situation with cats. And then you put that in a tiny box, an RV box. You're asking for a bottle of Prozac, maybe even a psychiatric visit. But you're a grown person and you know what you're doing. Well, I hope it all ends very well for you. And I think maybe there would be good cooperation if you're a good pet owner. Remember, these are just opinions, guys. Don't run out there and shake your life down, okay? Don't do something that you're not going to be good at doing. All right, moving from there. Bob Buki, $20. Well, we are double bubble in one day, so my cats will be super enriched at this point. Anymore, we might have to put a small ruby on the collar. So thank you, Bob, for that. That will certainly go through the care and welfare of treats for the cats, and especially Bunny. Bunny's like having the car I want. The reason I can't have it is Bunny. Okay, I had to finance his surgery, so yeah, I love him that much. All right, Maggie Smith, good for you. I won't have an RV. Think about a pet. I worked for psych for years. Sometimes patients are alive because they have a pet. God, you're a truth teller now. Let me tell you, that comment said a lot right there. Pets can mean the difference. Pets can mean the difference. It's alive, breathing, and can care about you. It can mean the difference in highly volatile, difficult, atrocious lives. A pet can mean a big difference. I recommend it for everybody. Hell, I've even had dark days. And that cat comes up meowing, and I know that he just pissed all over my furniture. I'm still not mad. I know it takes a special one, right? A-Train 723. What about New York housing program? Couldn't tell you. I haven't looked into it lately. My goal and my hope, guys, is as we approach the end of the government shutdown, is that we will revitalize all the different opinions and ideas about housing and what's going to be available, because we're waiting for that information from the Director of HUD's reports and through new policy and procedure for 2026, which is right around the corner. So it's quite appropriate to ask that question, but whether or not I can actually give you that before 2026 comes, it would be very difficult. I think we're going to know a lot by November 15th. And I think the pace of the news is going to change as well. I think that most of you are going to notice as we get into November, the whole topic of news is going to be housing and food stamps. And I'm waiting. I'm certainly waiting, because I'm sitting here right now smacking my lips about all kinds of stuff. Tomato gardening, purple cats, RVs, psychiatric health. All, you know what? Because I'm just like the rest of you. I'm thinking about this stuff too. You know, when my mother was living before she passed away this January, you know, we had lots of talks about food stamps. She was an independent woman, and no, I do despise that at times, because she would make me march down to that food stamp office with her, which I didn't mind. What bothers me is that people in that building would make us fuck around for 3 hours to give her $15 in food stamps. Now, you could view that $15 in food stamps two ways. For me, it was a waste of my day. For my mother, well, she looked at it this way. It was a great way to punish those people and make them burn up 3 hours of their day. So we go religiously sit over there and meticulously make their job as miserable as possible, and then go right on after that $15. And Mama did good too. Couldn't see, couldn't hear. I said, Mom, you've never had this kind of hearing and seeing problem. Only when you get the food stamp. Because I know I can't stand these bastards. And we'd walk away with a glorious $15 in food stamp. Part of my livelihood has left the parking lot. We've killed the whole day, $90 in gas. But we're quite proud that Mother has now punished the food stamp office. God help her if she was around for Section 8, and she tried that once. I think I'm going to move out. Can you give me about Mom? I cannot help my own family members do that stuff. It's conflict of interest. She wanted to punish the housing authority. Please, Mom, stop. We do enough shit talking in the channel. We don't need you out there doing it for real. Besides that, I'm pretty sure staying in my guest room isn't that bad of a deal. And she always found ways to never pay for anything. She always just said, well, my son's got a big company. So she was a traditional Louisiana in that nature, because she often said shit that was absolutely not true. But that was Mama. Old-fashioned Cajun. She'd be proud of you if she was a bank robber. She kind of woman I'd be, if I was, police were hunting for me, she'd lie to the police and then phone me right after that. Run a little harder. They'll be out looking. That's Mom for you. She may have not been the best Cajun woman to know, but that was Mom. It's old school. Still drinking beer out the can. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Anybody know about that? If you were in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, you remember Pabst Blue Ribbon. She kicked back one of them things on the porch, 68 years old. Then she kicked back 6 more. I'm like, Mom, we're not visiting the neighbors. Remember what happened last time? The police got called. Anyways, we all got problems. I enjoy telling that story. I'm sure my mother's spinning in the grave. She's either spinning in the grave or proud I told her war story. All right, move back down. Miss Helena, my condolences. Yeah, I appreciate that. That was the toughest thing I ever lost was my mother. The second toughest was a kitten. And I'm pretty sure that when I lose my main cat, Pops, that'll probably break me in small pieces. So I told Pops the other day, don't plan on dying anytime soon, because you're going to end up causing me to have a mental problem, a complete breakdown, brother. He's the kind of cat, sometimes you have pets that calm your soul. That cat can do it. So he's got to make it a good 20. You don't get no early release. All right, Bunny Bun. Our governor is talking about calling a state emergency. Well, they're going to have to. For states that have good people in place in their government, there is a fair opportunity that many states could pick up the bill for food stamps or even housing. They could donate the money or temporarily pull out the budget to help with this. We're already seeing a lot of private donors jump in the game behind different things. They funded a $250 billion ballroom for the White House. Another donors picked up the bill for $130 million payable for the military. So, it's not beyond the realm of imagination that some states might want to protect their citizens and forget what the government and the politicians are doing, or at least bridge gap it. So there's a chance. Not every state can afford to do that, but that will say a lot about a whole lot of states. The ones that step in and defend its citizens, because a state is just like a little country. If they stand in place and they represent their people and are willing to protect their seniors and disabled, that's going to say a whole lot about a state. And I will keep note of that. Republican or Democrat, I will keep note of the states that went out there and actively tried to defend their citizens, regardless of the shit at the government level, regardless of who's in charge or whatever else. I'll keep an eye on that, because that says a lot about a state. All right, moving on from there, my condolences, Jay. Hope those when you are out, then you might have a beer, but sometimes Pabst was all the beer you could afford to buy. True. Very true. My grandmother drank it too. Thank God she stopped. So we had a long beer can drinking tradition in our family. I wasn't involved in that. It skipped me. I picked up plenty of whiskey bottles, but never beer. I can't do it. All right, Trust Works, 1 million people in the state need help. The fallout shelter is under the ball. Now, if the world ever comes to an end, the only people left are going to be living. It's not going to be the scientists and the musicians and the artists. The only thing that will be left is standing on Earth. I can guarantee you, there's going to be politicians in tuxedos. Okay, that'll be what's left to repopulate the Earth. So we are fucked anyways. Okay, all these movies, we're going to pull in the smartest people and all this stuff. Look, at the end of the day, the only people we defend are your politicians. They're going to put them all in a bunker. I hope they all kill themselves. I hope they all kill each other. Because if that's what's going to repopulate, if those little bunnies in a cave or politicians are in the cave, and even better, an equal mix of Democrats and Republicans. We've got all these little bunnies in the cave in a tuxedo because they were at $1 trillion ball hall, along with a few waiters. So they're being there like little bunnies. If that's what's going to repopulate, look, I don't want to be part of it. Send me on. Do like they did with Sam. Send me on, brother. I ain't got time for that. Could you even imagine the most deaf people and blind people, most deaf and blind people in the country with the most money stuck like rabbits in a hole, and that's what's going to be screwing in the rabbit hole, and what's going to walk out and repopulate? I'd rather have robots. I'd rather have naked Martians. Okay, if that's repopulation, then we need to neuter all our politicians. Okay, spray and neuter. That should be the first order of business at the new ball hall. Free spray and neuter. I do not want these bastards. Seriously, I do not want them repopulating Earth. No fallout shelter for them. Sorry. I'll take anybody, okay? Just not them. And while they're there, I hope also all the, what do you call them? Lobbyists. I hope they're the other half in the room, because we can do without them too. So anybody agrees, good. And like I said, both can be in the frying pan. No matter what side of the party. I ain't got time for this. I like to see the country just run on the goodwill of American people, and stop having the wealthy make decisions for everybody. I really would. It's just too much. People know how to run it. Let me tell you something. I'll give you a great example, and a couple examples of a television series called Gold Rush. Many of you might have heard or seen it, or even Bering Sea Gold. The whole concept was about going out and being American and go getting gold, right? But what I notice is in certain parts of the country, if you bring your business to somebody's county or township and they don't want you there, they come out with their guns and disinvite you. They make it very clear to you by means of being fully armed that you will not be doing business in their neighborhood or even in their town. I saw 3 examples of that. There are places in the country where being an outsider ain't too welcome. People like to keep the communities, and they don't want it convoluted. They don't want it mixed up with crazy shit. And they won't stop. They'll march out with rifles and guns and take pot shots. While the county sheriff don't do jack. He didn't see it. We have a lot of parts of this country like that. Let Americans determine their fate. Isn't that the point of being American? That American dream. People want to do business the way they want to do it. We're all grown. We're all grown. We don't need to be told shit. This ain't no fucking daycare. People can do what they need to do. Or you can let Big Brother hold your hand. We're seeing how that shit plays out, right? When you give people lots of money, the constructive ability to pretty much make every damn decision for you, down to your property taxes, when you can breathe, move, and even violate the rules. You're watching this game play, and it's a big old chessboard game for both parties. People in 1800s in America didn't go through this. Though it was dangerous, you could get an arrow in your back from a Sioux Indian, and it wasn't uncommon for people that when they wanted to solve a problem, they pulled out a Colt 45 and they dashed your ass right there in the middle of the street in downtown. People drop like popcorn right by the hardware store. You stole a horse, you stole anything. You didn't need a judge. The bullet was a judge. They would cancel your ass real fast. That was America. America operated with morals those days because there was an understanding. We ain't gonna put up with shit like that around here. You bring it to us, we'll cancel you. I'm not gonna say the other word because I push things pretty far on YouTube, and so I try not to go too far. But you understand the concept. Both have pitfalls. Both are dangerous. But, just like all our people that came from France, Ireland, Africa, Asia, from all over the world to fill this country, back in the day, just a little over 100 years ago, it was still the Wild West. Now it's Apple, Google, and Amazon and the government. And they spoon feed us a reality. You'll do as we tell you to do, and if you don't, you'll be subject to arrest, everything else. The king and the queen. And I'm not discussing President Donald Trump. I'm talking about the evolution of America and our concept of living here. So it's an idea. Let's shake that idea for now. It's kind of depressing. Me and the cats will enjoy our RV, being a little bit off grid. And I want to thank the person that brought up the concept of off the grid, because the way I was discussing things one day about me and the cats traveling in the RV, it never occurred to me that partially the idea or concept that I come up with was somewhat off the grid. And so it helped me look into things further as I want to spend my retirement. What I don't want to spend my retirement doing is taking my retirement money and then giving it back to the same fucking people that have already taxed it 28 fucking times. So the only way to do that is to solve things like power, water, and travel, where there's no property tax. Okay? Not be siphoned. Not have the government leech suck me dry, suck my bones dry, till they're pearly white in a wooden box. And for all that, when I do go, I won't leave one wooden nickel to be had. You think I'm going to leave the county, the state, the federal government, anything? Nothing. Maybe some dirty laundry. I'll leave this damn earth the same way I entered it, with nothing. Well, anyway, I sound like a bit of an extremist. Isn't that great? And here I am. I'm a Section 8 consultant. I literally deal with housing at a federal level, but my opinions are many. And the longer you live, the more you see, the more you understand. I've watched the plight of tens of thousands of people. I've watched our housing system and food system and welfare system and all these things, many of which are handicaps. They damage people, turn people into cage rabbits. I watch it, and I worry about people immensely. In the hardest cases, I have to deal with people that are trying to just keep themselves above water so they don't have to give their pets away. Now, that really wrenches and damages me in special ways. When I've got 88-year-old women in their cars and they're willing to spend their last dollar to buy cat food. And they leave me hanging because I got to go to bed that night. I got to think, if I do nothing for this woman, or I don't do my job just quite good enough, then it will mean that her cats are dead. I failed her, and she'll likely freeze to death in her car if I don't do my job fast enough. That's why this is why I terminate some cases, because I have smart asses that ask my company to do things for them, and they think they're better than everybody else. They don't understand that I'm not going to sell priority like we're going to sell a gold package. What packages are you selling? I'm not selling packages. Are you nuts? I service people based on the basis of need. And my old and elderly and disabled are much more important than a 30-year-old missing a leg. I'm sorry. Sometimes damage is damage. When you're dealing with everybody damaged, Bob's got a missing eyeball, Dave's got no leg, Grandma's got a broke back and 2 cats. When it's all completely whacked, then who gets priority? Shall I act like the housing authority and run a lottery? No. You make decisions on character, morals, and ethics, if you can. Ethics, really, not really. Because if I did it on the basis of how a business should run, then I'd probably be wealthy by now. Okay? I wouldn't be sitting here with just dollar store shit behind my head if I was running the best possible money-making business. Okay? Well, guys, I think I've had enough of the truth for tonight before I depress myself. But the really good news, guys, is this. The government shutdown is coming to a close. Okay? This can't go on much longer. That's number one. Number two, there are going to be real solutions in place after this. We'll have a final answer from Congress as to what's funded, what's not, what's going to be permitted, and what's not going to be permitted. Work limits, time limits, all that be rolled out like a red carpet. Yep, it'll be tough, but For most of you, you're already used to dealing with adversity and tough situations. This means that we are climbing to the challenge to meet the new rules. Okay. My final retirement will be when this administration ends, but I'm still winding it down all the way through. And that's to help you guys through the last portion of one of the most difficult times in the country's history in terms of housing. Don't misinterpret that as me saying that I believe that President Trump created a problem. What I'm saying is the rules have to change, and they're changing. And I'd like very much to help pioneer those changes. Okay? From many of you. Because there aren't many of me left. I count on one hand how many consultants still do what I do. So I think it's imperative that somebody stay around just long enough to help you bridge the big change in business. And I think at that point, I've done my service. Another 3 years, this puts me 29 years. I got to get on the road because the cats and I, we have a journey. We're going to go to the magic forest. Remember, we talked about that in many videos. What happens when you throw the homeless out? Well, guys, it's been wonderful talking with you. I'm glad we got to share a lot of personal things amongst us all. Many different veritable topics. It was great being able to share more than just food stamps and housing. We're able to share our care and passion of animals, care and passion of life, the difficulties of having government, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, and some of the constraints of being an American. We're every year we go on, we're more like house pets to our own country, and it's tiring. And I'd like to show you all a different angle on housing besides Section 8. As I'll start traveling and give you a great example of how you might do it on a low budget to give you some more freedom from the government stranglehold. Okay? We don't need jailers in this country. We have enough of that. The rules are already too tight. It's sucking the life out of Americans. It doesn't matter who's running the White House. It doesn't matter who's running Congress. It's too much government. It's destroying our ability to think freely. It's destroying dreams. It's destroying hope. And it's making us all like caged rabbits. So I worry about the health of this country. And this is a culminating effect of decades and decades and decades of politics. Not just one president, not just one Democratic stunt or one Republican stunt. This is a culmination of just government, paving the highway and government politics. And now we got to ride this nasty damn thing till the end. In the future, we'll see a lot worse than we do. With that being said, guys, please enjoy your night. As soon as the government shutdown hits national news, I'm going to come over here and act like I'm the first one to report it. I'm act all shocked, like I'm the first one to tell America. That's my job, to be a jerk. But it's important because some of you don't get the news very often. But mostly when I make that video is to discuss the new changes that have not been revealed. With all great magic tricks from the government, we're going to do a pulling of the curtain. And then we're going to pull the rabbit out of the hat, and we're going to see. And we do have one visitor tonight. I'm going to bring out little mama. There she is. So little mama says hello. She has a difficulty with her eye. She was born with an eye stigma problem, so it constantly closed. But you got to see a cat tonight, and we'll see if she wants to come through here. She's very independent. She doesn't like me picking her up, okay? That's a big deal. I'm lucky I didn't get a claw in this video. It's quite frightening when she walks onto my scalp and then get a claw of the eyeball. I don't want my eyeball deflated in here, okay? She's very specific. As an older cat, don't play with me. And when she gives that little howl, it means do it one more time, baby, and I'm going to deflate your eyeball. So be careful with these cats as they get old. They're not putting up with none of your jazz. All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. She's a marble cat, by the way. So she's just a little moody tonight. I grabbed it the wrong way. And like I said, y'all lucky I still got an eyeball. Some days she ain't feeling it. She's like, hey, look, back off, turkey. If you want to make it, I ain't going to let you make it tomorrow. All right. Let me get over here. I'm just rambling. So I've enjoyed having you guys. Enjoy your night. We'll be back in 1 or 2 days. Thank you. Bye.